Hi, I'm Andre, and I'm thrilled to bring you this panel about past, present, and future of Power Rangers in comics. And I got two wonderful guests with me here today, which I have to introduce. They're wonderful, wonderful people. I've seen them so many times. I'm so happy to see them here again for this. We have New York Times bestselling author Ryan Parrott. He's a comic book author, screenwriter based out of LA. He's best known to Power Rangers fans as the long-running fan favorite writer of Boom Studios' Power Rangers series, Go Go Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin, and Power Rangers. And he is currently the writer for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 100, which is his final issue, as well as the writer for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers slash Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of my favorite crossovers. So, Ryan, thank you for being here.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
And then we also have Melissa Flores. Hey, Melissa. Melissa is a
Hello.
writer best. She's a writer best known for her work as a producer on Power Rangers. She also wrote and co-created the popular Twitch digital hybrid series, The Unleashed, as well as the comic book series, The Dead Lucky from Image Comics. She's the upcoming main series writer for the ongoing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from issue 101 and onward. So great to have you here, Melissa.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with like two of my favorite people ever.
So yeah. So it's been really cool to see Power Rangers in the world of comics. We've seen obviously the TV show for going on 30 years now. But I'm curious with you two, what made it so special to be able to use this franchise in comics form?
Oh, I mean, I think the coolest thing has always been that you could just do so much more in comics. You know, like everybody knows how Power Rangers was made, and it's this crazy, insane hybrid. And I feel like the nicest thing about it was that you could, with the comics, you could just really take it and go anywhere. There was no budget restrictions. There's no, as they showed in Shattered Grid, there was no time restrictions, so you could have people who played the parts 30 years apart. I think that's the stuff that's been so much fun. It's the perfect medium for this particular franchise.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just something so magical about really being only limited by the page and by your imagination. And what I really love about Power Rangers comics in general is that, yes, it is based in canon, so to speak, where you have, everything that happened on the show. But obviously, this isn't the 90s. It's a completely different tone. Everybody's got cell phones. And the freedom that comes with that to just create new rangers and new worlds and really dive into existing characters in such an interesting and different way. It's been fascinating. One of the favorite things I feel that's come out of my favorite things that's come out of the Power Rangers franchise in the last 10 years. It's just been a blast to see it develop. And 100 issues is incredible to just see the amount of story that was told.
Yeah, that's what I found was so interesting about this because obviously, if you have watched the show, you know what's happened in that show, or you get the beats of that show. But it seems like the comics were able to play in this sort of in between. So we know that, for example, right at the beginning, Tommy became the Green Ranger, but we didn't know what it was like of him going from this bad guy to now this good guy, and how. And so it was interesting to read like how different Rangers reacted to that, and even his own self reflection of that. Then, of course, we had in Go Go, we got to see more of what the team was like before Tommy came to be, and then by the time we get to Shattered Grid, it's just like you have so much to play
Oh,
with.
that's
Is that fun for you guys to be able to go? Oh, how can we add some more context to certain parts, or pull from different seasons and mix them together in ways that we've never done before?
Yeah, I mean, one of the goals I've always had from the beginning was to not sort of do it as like a reboot, because I never wanted to be. If you go read Go Go, we actually don't replay anything. We kind of like we'll hint at it, like you'll come in at the end of a fight and then you'll move off of it. Because I was like, we all love the show, we know the show. For instance, I've done a lot. I think if you go through the entire track record of Power Rangers, I start the day after the pilot and go all the way to 100. I never did Green with Evil because there's no way I'm going to do a better job than that. There's like, we know that. I don't even, let's not even touch that. So like that was what was fun for me, was like kind of like you said, was sort of playing sort of like an accompaniment with the show and find sort of like the little areas that that was the initial genesis from when Daphne brought me on the project. Was like, she's like, I want this to be 70% kids in high school, 30% monsters. And what was nice about, if she had made it the other way around, I don't think I'd have made it was like they would have gone from like fighting Pudgy Pig to going around the corner to like fighting a whole new villain. So it was like fun that we were able to actually make it sort of just like more like a like it plays in harmony. That was the idea anyways for the thing. But so yeah, it just, and that freed us up to do stuff, you know, that was more emotional and more about like the everyday stuff of like, you know, going to dances and hanging out with your friends and all that fun stuff, and spend time, I think, with the characters that we grew up loving.
Yeah, and I really absolutely love the world building that comes from with that too, as well. I mean, even after Shattered Grid with Necessary Evil, we got to see an entirely new world with the Omega Rangers, where they were just galactic rangers that were able to go and to see the different types of planets and universes, and how the Morphin Grid was different everywhere was so interesting. And I really also loved that we were able to take little nuggets from the show that were maybe just talked about in passing and turn them into something really cool. Like even the Morphin Masters was one line in the original series, and then now it's become this incredible thing that has been used in Dino Fury and is a big cornerstone in the books. And that's what I really love, when you see that kind of magical mythology just expand and synergize across the franchise. It's just so satisfying and fun.
Yeah, it is. It's really good, and that's something I noticed as well. Is like sometimes you see these things that happen in the comics, and then you see some things that happen in the show, and it seems like they're almost kind of sometimes inspiring each other from time to time on that. So that's really cool. And of course, that leads us to issue 100, which is a major, major milestone. So Ryan, what was it like for you to write this major milestone release?
Intimidating. I mean, it was a little bit like, they're like, all right, you're gonna do 100. I'm like, cool. They're like, you get 40 pages. I'm like, great. It's like, it's your last issue. I'm like, oh, okay. No, it was more complicated than that, but it was, you know, it's like, I remember coming on. I remember when 25 was a big deal. Like, I remember with like, oh, the 25th issue, this is going to be, you know, we kill a major character in that issue. So I remember, like, now that it's 75 issues later, which is just mind boggling. Yeah, I'm it was neat. I remember Daphne said something really early, and she was like, you know, when we did Power Rangers, she was like, I want you to try and stay on this book as long as you can. And it's like, I think that's when and this is gonna, she said this, not me. So she's like, I think that's when great writers find their footing, is when they do stuff for a really long time, and they can get to know the characters in a way that allows them to sort of really grow and take chances and all that stuff. And she's like, I think when she was like, I want to give you a long run. And so when you look at, I've done like 100 issues, it's just crazy to think that, like, man, I can't remember. I was just hoping that I'd get, you know, 4. They like, you can do the first run, Ryan, and then you have to bail, you know? So 6 years later, it's just like, wow, like, I can't believe that I got to do this as long. And so, like, it was cool. It was a little bittersweet though, writing the last issue, because I was like, the nice thing, I think the nicest thing about it was that it's not the end of the series. It's just the end of my run. So I can end it in a way that, like, I feel comfortable, but I can leave things open. I didn't feel like I had to shove everything into, because 40 pages sounds like a lot, but it's not. And so it's nice to be able to sort of complete some small emotional things and clear up some things, but also leave a lot on the table for someone like Melissa to take over and make better, which is great.
Well, it's actually really funny. Oh, I was just saying, it's actually really funny, because I remember when I was working with Ryan on all these books, I kept asking Daphne, like, are we burning him out? Is it too much? Like, because I was terrified he was going to be like, no, it's too much, I'm leaving. And that was like the last thing that I wanted. So it was, it's so amazing to see him, like, the 100 is incredible. It's such a masterpiece, and it made me cry. I'm just so excited for everyone else to read it.
That's so great. Well, I'm excited to talk about this right here, because this was shown at PostCon, the Death Ranger. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, totally. So when I first started on the book, I remember Daphne was like, just come up with a bunch of stuff. I mean, this is when I started on Go-Go. And so I had a bunch of like ideas, and I remember I think I did almost all of them. I think Alpha 1 was an idea, and I think what else was in there? There was some bringing back the Green Ranger was sort of in there. Anyways, there was some other stuff, but all that stuff was in there. But at the very bottom of my list was just the word Death Ranger and a little sketch of like the teeth opening, like the idea of taking the faceplate away and just having sort of like a skeletal teeth. And that was really all I had. And so that just sort of sat there for like 5 years. And then finally, when we were like, okay, we're gonna do your last run, she was like, do you have any ideas? And I was like, well, the story has started at birth and death. Like, let's play with that. And I was like, I just like the visual nature of it all. I thought it was fun. To be fair, I was like, I just want my own Draken. I like Kyle made Draken, and so like I want him in my own Draken. I want an action figure. So that was the whole intention. But no, there was a lot of fun stuff in there that worked thematically, and I just loved that visual thing. And I think I felt like the book had come far enough and dealt with a lot of serious issues and dealt with a lot of, so it had not aged up, but it had we dealt with enough like heavy emotional stuff that I felt like this wasn't so crazy that you're going to bring, a smiling skeleton ranger into a kid's book. So I felt like we could probably get away with it.
Oh yeah.
But that was the thing. And he's kind of, they've become sort of their own entity. And the one shot that Paul Lord did really fleshed out the character in ways that I had never sort of expected. That was actually really one of the nice fun things about the one shot was like, I had the idea of the character. I knew how they would function in my story, but it was really cool to be able to give it to somebody else and have them sort of work out the backstory and come and flesh it out and then give me a lot of the mythology and the sort of like character that I got to play with, and having someone else do that was very, very, very nice.
That's awesome. And is there anything else that you could say without spoiling too much about issue 100 that you're excited for readers to check out?
Oh boy, what can I not spoil? What can I spoil? That's the fun stuff, because they can't fire me at this point, so I can just spoil everything. Everyone dies. And my dog is getting crazy. Sorry. I would say the thing I spoil. I think the thing that I'm most excited for about it is that we were able to sort of find like a story mechanism that allowed us to sort of to celebrate all the moments. Like I wanted the 100 to be sort of a celebration, and so we were like, it'd be neat to be able to go back and find a way to like hit on some of my favorite moments from the series and the run, and we were able to figure that out. And I can't spoil what that is, but that's a big part of the story. And then also that allowed us to bring back almost all the artists that had worked on the series. I think we have 6 or 7 of them. I will not say all their names because a lot of them I will mess up the pronunciations, but like really, really talented artists from the run who came back in. And so we were able to sort of bring them back and sort of do like one big band jam to sort of end the series. And so I think that was really fun. But I think the thing that I'm probably the proudest of is I really like the ending. I think the ending is a pretty emotional storyline, and it adds, it ties into the things that I love that I got to do in Go-Go. And so being able to sort of just sing it, bring it all together at the very end like that, I without spoiling it, like not everybody's going to make it out of this. That's probably the best teaser I can give you. Not everybody's going to make it out of this unscathed, which is just nice.
And do you see
for
this
me
journey? Well, do you see this journey
nice.
for the... Yeah, exactly. Read and stay tuned. But do you see this journey for Power Rangers also be this journey for you as you're coming to the end of this?
I love that you're using the word journey. That's very powerful and very smart. Sorry, it'll make more sense when you read the book. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, I like it little, I don't think everybody gets to be a part of something for this long. And like I love those characters. Like I remember growing up on them and like really having a strong affection for all of them. And so the idea that I was able to actually bring in, I don't add any depth to them or give them little details or answer questions that people always had, I think that's a really cool and like a very sort of, I don't take that lightly. I think it's a pretty neat thing, because I know that that's the stuff that I read and what I like. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty crazy thing to work with characters for so long that you end up like you have ownership over them for a little while. Like there was one point where I was like, no one was writing the Power Ranger books but me. And I remember there was a point where it shifted and someone had to write. I was like, wait, people can do that? What's going on? Like no one's checking with me on these things. but then I dropped my ego and it all worked out. But yeah, so for me, I mean, it's just like sort of a very sort of bittersweet and sort of like they've been such a big part of my life for such a long time. It's going to be very weird to just get to be a fan again, which is actually kind of exciting too. Like to be real, it'll be nice to actually, because some of the stuff that Melissa is doing is already just like, I was like, I never would have thought to do that. That's a really cool thing. That'll be really fun. So I'm slowly shifting from creator mode to back to fan mode, and that'll be nice.
Well, speaking of shifting, Melissa, Not only are we shifting the Power Rangers comic over to you, but also this is kind of a return to you to Power Rangers in general. So, what does that feel like to kind of come back to this brand, but in a different context?
It's really funny because when Ryan was saying like it's kind of like one of those things you kind of go through a mourning period when you leave this franchise, and I literally went through the same thing that he did when I got the gig. I went and read 2 years of Power Ranger comic books that I had not been a part of, and it was one of the things I'm like, oh my god, they did this without me, and that really hurt. Not
So I
really,
know these
honestly, like
guys. Yeah.
it's one of those things that it's a terrifying experience to come back. Because they've done it so well. I mean, these last 2 years of stories have been incredible, and the way these stories that have been told with Ryan and then later Matt have fulfilled this journey and taken these Rangers to places I never would have imagined. And obviously, if anybody could do it, it's Ryan. He's always been an incredible writer and creator. But to come in after both of these incredible men have done these incredible runs, it is incredibly intimidating and terrifying because I am no longer the one that is just hearing the pitches. I'm the one actually pitching the creative, and it's coming from me now, and there's nobody else behind me that's telling me what to do beyond the incredible editors at Boom and obviously Hasbro. But honestly, it is so humbling and so gratifying and so exciting. I have always loved this franchise. I'm so excited to be a part of it in a different way and to be able to contribute my own stories to the lore has been an experience unlike any other. It is truly an honor that I do not take lightly, and I'm just so excited to take these stories that I love, that I've seen from inception, from the minute that Boom walked into the room with the pitch and with Kyle and with Ryan, to be able to take all that history and then add my own spin on it. I never would have imagined being able to do anything like that. And I thought my time with Power Rangers was done. I even got a Power Rangers tattoo to be like, okay, it's time to say goodbye. So,
Yeah.
and it's a shattered grid tattoo. So to be able to come back, like I can't express what an honor it is, and how happy I am to be here for Hasbro and for Boom.
So see, once a ranger, always a ranger takes many
Apparently, they don't
forms.
let you leave.
So yeah, and I'm curious about that with you because you were with Power Rangers for a good amount of time, and you were there when the Boom comics started. How do you feel, or what do you see about the franchise or the brand now, compared to when you left, that you feel is unique or expanded upon it or anything of that nature?
I'm just really excited for the future. I mean, I love honestly not knowing what's coming. I think um, it feels like the doors are wide open for anything for Power Rangers. Like there are no rules anymore. Like I absolutely love that the franchise has all this, you know, 30 years of history. I love, like, it's rare that you get a brand that has that kind of meat to it. But I
Hmm.
also think a lot of times that that kind of dense mythology can kind of hold a franchise in place. And I am excited to see how how the brand evolves. I think there's so much opportunity to do something new and different, and I love the chances that Dino Fury has been taking, and I love the chances that Boom takes every single day with their incredible mythology and the new elements that they bring to the franchise. And I think in Hasbro's hands, it's just exciting to see where else that can go, because you're not tied as much to that mythology. Like even me, when I was with the brand for 10 years, there were things that I was stuck in, I think, a little bit, in terms of these are how we do it because we've always done it. And if you bring somebody like Jonathan Entwistle and those amazing creators who come in and be like, no, what if we do it this way, it adds I don't want to say breath of fresh air, because I don't think that the brand has ever had any issues with that, but it adds a different perspective that I think that will invigorate and reinvent in a really cool, fun way. That makes sense. And that's honestly what Kyle and Ryan and Matt and Marguerite and all these incredible writers have been doing at Boom. Anyways, they've been taking a franchise that we love and adding new dimension to it, taking twists, adding twists to new characters. I mean, Ranger Slayer is my favorite character of all time, and that came from Ryan. And and that's honestly what I truly love. I love being able to honor the past because I love it so much, but also being able to look to the future and be like, what is it about this brand that we love, that fills us with passion, and how do I add my spin to it that still keeps it Power Rangers and still honors what we've all done, but maybe changes it a tiny bit.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Like adding stuff, it's still Power Ranger at its heart, its core, and that's always what's important. But let's talk about this future because, like I said, you're going 101 forward.
Yeah.
What can you tell us again without spoiling too much? What can you tell us to expect?
No spoil at all. Bring it on.
Yeah, or tell us.
I mean, Ryan already knows a lot, so
I'm sure.
I mean, what I will say is I think I have a little bit of a different perspective than maybe an entirely new writer that has come in, because I do have this history with being in the room when these amazing writers have come in and pitched these stories, and I helped to develop these stories. And so I feel honestly as in love with these stories and as proprietary of these stories of Draken, of Ranger Slayer, of Sanctuary and the Master Arch, as maybe not as much, but like I feel as protective of them as maybe Kyle or Ryan would. And so with that in mind, and keeping the idea that this is the same lore and the same story, just being my version, my extension of it, what I'm adding to it, I really want to just respect what we did and kind of pay homage to it. And what I mean with that is that these Rangers have been on these incredible journeys. We've seen Tommy killed, we've seen the Right Ranger come in, we've seen wonderful characters like Dane in Alpha One, and these themes of good and evil that just keep coming and coming and coming. And because we're writers and we like to really hurt our protagonists, they never really seem to get a break. And I kind of want to address that a little bit, especially after the events of 100, which really touched me profoundly. It's one of those ideas of like, you're a kid and you're you're in high school, you're growing up, you've had to see a lot more than maybe a typical teenager has had to see. At what point does it become too much? And at what point do you start to break a little? And so I'm really interested in exploring that theme and the idea of, if we don't learn from our past, obviously we're doomed to repeat it. And so that is why Rita Repulsa is back, and why she has also changed to become this Mistress Vile version of her, because she has been profoundly affected by what has happened as the Rangers, and because of the amazing backstory that was given to her via Ryan, with the idea that she was infused with the Morphin grid, and that she's got a lot of daddy issues, and that she's just never been seen as enough. It really provides an interesting avenue into the character that shows her desperate to prove herself in a new vindictive way that is going to really test the Rangers in a very, very harsh way.
Wow.
If I can,
that's actually what I was going to ask you about.
I will say this, like, I think what Melissa's talking about is actually my favorite part about the comic book process in Power Rangers, is like, because you're actually she, knowing what I do know what she's doing, she's actually taking some risks, because I never did. I always sort of I was always scared of like stepping outside of sort of the characters, and I like just ripping on the stuff I knew, as opposed to like going in crazy different directions. Although I guess Mega Rangers would qualify, but the thing that I think is so cool about
Ranger, Ryan, come on.
Valid point. But I think the thing that that's kind of just undercuts my entire argument. But I think the thing that I loved about comic books is when you can create characters and then you just leave them and you put them in the universe for other people to play with down the line. Like, that's actually my favorite thing about comics, is that that's the form of it, right? In the sense that like if you look at comics, have been around for 100 years, and like everybody gets their hands on these characters. The people create like a certain character, and then 50 years later, another writer comes in, takes that character, turns them, makes them more interesting, adds layers, adds depth. That's something that's completely unique to comic books. Like, no one else does that. I'm not going to rewrite Hamlet tomorrow and make Hamlet a more interesting character. That's, you know what I mean? So like, it's really fun when you create a character, you put them there, and then someone else comes in and they take them and then they make them better or more interesting, or they find a new layer to that. That's something that I think is super cool and really exciting. And I think Power Rangers actually is a great place to do that because it has so many, especially with the comics, because it has this one singular Mighty Morphin narrative lane, right? But you have all these other series from 30 years that you can pull from and add and touch. Like Dane's, and Dane could have been a completely unique character, and that's who that was going to be. And then we're like, you know what? What if we see someone else that's from the Doggy Kruger's homeland? And that just added this cool little layer. And I feel like that's the fun part about playing in the sandbox and the world building of the comics.
Yeah, I will say it's been it's a terrifying experience to kind of jump off this ledge, you know, especially this is, you know, a relatively, I've been writing for years, but never in this kind of avenue and in this with this kind of stakes. And there has been like the support that I have gotten from Ryan, from Matt, from Boom has been so incredible. Like I'm so fortunate to call Ryan a friend, that I can actually call him and be like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And he'll be like, well, that's a big swing, but I think it's good. And it makes it a little less terrifying if I can actually speak to somebody who I respect so much, who did such amazing things with these characters, and actually get his opinion, his thoughts. And he's been so supportive and so open to all the new directions that I want to take. But there is a safety in being and having access to Ryan and being able to talk to him. And I'm sorry that my dog is barking. So I just want to thank him for that, because there are so many others that could be like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to hear any of what you're doing. That'll just, you know. And he's just been so open and cool, and I really do appreciate it so much.
Yeah. New phone. Who's this? Yeah, exactly.
You feel the love. That's just so nice. Yeah, it's great to hear that collaborative effort, because, like I said, especially with these characters, we always want to know what's going to happen with them. Obviously, the fans look very detailed about what each element of these characters are. So to see that you have this collaborative effort while still being able to tell this singular story is really awesome. So you mentioned her earlier, so I had to go back and ask you a little bit more, Melissa, about Mistress Val. What can you tell us about the sort of this character and what we can expect from her in some of the future?
I mean, no one's listening. I can tell you everything, right?
No.
I think I've said a lot already, but what I really love about this character, she's definitely out to prove something. And if you look at the history that has been crafted for her lovingly in these booths, where you see her loyalty to her minions and the humanity, like we know eventually she becomes the Mystic Mother, which is a very cool place for her to end up. And because it allows you to see that shred of humanity that still exists inside of her, because you've seen her mother Fiona and you've seen the love that existed for her. And but then you also see the darkness from which she was forged. And with all that connection, her mommy issues, her daddy issues, the fact that she's infused with this morphin grid energy that made her uncorruptible in terms of like useless to Dark Spectre. There's a lot going on with Rita Repulsa, and where she is now, where she has been thrown into a dumpster by Lord Zed and deemed useless yet again. That's a lot of baggage for somebody as powerful as Rita to just take. So I will say she is back, and she is back with a vengeance, and she is out to prove something. And I don't think anybody, not the Rangers, not Zed, not even her minions, are ready for what's going to happen to any of them. She is going to literally, I don't want to say destroy the world, but definitely crack it.
Make her presence known. Yeah.
She is a bad BITCH in charge. Yeah, she's ready.
Well, that's cool. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens with that. And I know you can't say too much, but as we've seen through the course of Power Rangers in comics, we do sometimes get some variations or new Rangers. Can we expect any of that in your era?
I have seen some very cool designs.
Okay.
And I'm
And here they
super,
are. No, I'm
super
kidding.
excited. Um,
All right,
no, look, I
sorry.
mean,
No.
obviously, if they give me the wheel, I'm gonna want to go and get the Porsche, and I'm gonna want to drive it around the track and see how far they let me take it, and how far I can burn the wheels. So, I have asked for the moon, and thankfully, I feel like I have gotten it. So I will
How
just
fitting
say
the
that.
moon. Well, that's good. Well, that gives me
More
even
cat
more excited.
rangers. Just more cat
More
rangers. We need like 4 more,
cat-
like a whole team. Just saying.
Hey,
Look, if I
The
can
fans
make
want it.
Meow
They
Rangers
demand.
canon,
Meow
it's gonna
Rangers,
happen.
yes. So let's get it. I'll read that one shot. Well, that's great. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the way this story continues to keep going, and like I said, to have someone like you, Melissa, who's had a strong history with Power Rangers in general, to do it in this format. Obviously work with you on Hyperforce and everything else that you do in the past. This is very exciting. It's very exciting to see you do that. But what is also exciting is, as much as I love Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, there is another franchise that I love very much, and I'm very excited that not only they got to cross over, but apparently, Ryan, you thought you were done. Pull you back in because they're crossing over again. You have to tell us about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers / Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
2. Yeah, it's always fun writing that across the top of each page when I'm writing like my script. I'm like, Jesus, takes forever. It's like
Two turtles, too massive. Yeah.
too massive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can I spoil? I'm writing it right now. Literally, that's what I'm gonna do as soon as this call's over.
Oh, nice.
We had so many ideas for the first run that they were always kind of sitting there, and so we'd always talked about doing it again if it did well, and it did, and it was really exciting. So I was like, yeah, let's try and do it again. And I don't know, it's fun. If you like the first one, I hope you'll like the second. I know that sounds weird, but I'm gonna, I'm looking at it as like a chapter 2, not sort of like a whole new reimagining. We're gonna have, we're gonna bring in some new heroes. We're gonna bring in some new villains. What else are we gonna do? I guess the goal is to try and take everything that you liked about the first run and hopefully just turn it up to 11. And just go a little crazier. That we're taking a swing in it that I didn't expect. Because there's just characters that I'm like you. Like I love the Rangers, but I love the Turtles. I grew up on them, and so this is my dream, is to be able to write those two together. Because I think the really fun part about it is like they have so many. Like, I guess I can spoil this. Yeah, screw it, I can do that. Yeah, like Splinter, like there's a conversation I wrote between Splinter and Zordon that I'm like, that's only a conversation that these two people could have, and that is a really interesting and fun thing. And it's like, those are the moments, and it's just a downbeat. It's not even like a major moment. It's not a major plot moment. It's just a character thing. If you just think about these two, this is so much. I shouldn't be talking about any of this. This is awesome. I'm like, they can't fire me. So, but like, that was the fun. It was like finding this little moment between the two of them that was just about what it's like to be mentors and to these kids, and what that's like, was such a fun little downbeat. So I feel like that's the point. There's an old adage that I've always liked, which is that plot's an excuse for character, and that's what I think is so cool about these crossovers. Is like, the plot should be cool and it should be effective and give you a lot of the fun stuff you want, but at the same time, it's like, it's an excuse to be able to group these characters that we love together and let them have conversations. Like the stuff in the first run that was the most fun was like Zach and Michelangelo arguing over pizza toppings, or Trini and Raphael are having emotional. Yeah, that's the fun stuff. So I'm trying to do more of those. I'm trying to find more of that. And so, yes, there's going to be Zord battles. There's going to be big stuff. We're going to expand this thing and make it even bigger. And we're going to tie up all the loose ends that I left in the first one. But at the same time, I really want to find those moments where we can just let the Turtles and the Rangers be and have them sort of talk and explore parts of that character, similarities and differences and all that stuff. So that's the fun part for me. I hope that's probably more than I should have said, but
No, that's great. I mean, that's what's so wonderful about them, because with both of these franchises, you have these characters that it's completely different stories, completely different adventures, but some of the things to heart are very similar. So to see them together, especially like I said, for them to be two franchises that a lot of people, myself included, grew up with, it's just so cool to be able to see it this way. Like that episode of Power Rangers in Space was great, that crossover episode. But like to see Mighty Morphin and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles together like this, and hearing things like that, like the Zordon Splinter talk. Oh, that's the good stuff right there. So that's exciting.
I mean, I don't know how you can get cooler than Green Ranger Shredder, so I'm excited to
Yes.
see what Ryan
Oh, I'm
comes up
gonna
with.
try.
No, that's great. I love crossovers, and that's an ultimate one for me. So yeah, Ryan. But if this does so well, would you come back again for a third one if that's the one did well?
I mean, I'm never gonna say no to writing Rangers and Turtles together. That'll not. And you know, if this thing ended on a cliffhanger again, wouldn't they have to bring me back?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it was funny. Back in like 2018 or something, like 2017, 2018, Ryan and I were at Comic-Con and we were having breakfast together or lunch together. And I remember talking to him and just getting to know him. That was like right when we were starting to become friends. And so I was like, what's your dream crossover? Or like, what was your dream project if you could do anything? And he's like, Turtles Rangers. And I was like, oh, wow, that sounds so cool. And then literally like months later, they're like, oh, we're doing a Turtle Ranger thing. And I was like, Ryan's on it, right? And they're like, yeah, we're thinking about it. And they're like, yes, this is exactly what we wanted.
I said that? I don't remember that. I'll
you
believe
did. You did.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, what's your dream project? And you said Turtles and Rangers. And I was like, oh my God. And then like, yeah.
Past self would be so excited.
Awesome. So, well, yeah, all the fan fiction I wrote back in the day is very excited to see that it actually came to life. So it's been great talking with both of you, but before we get out of here, I just have to ask, Power Rangers, as we've mentioned many times, is a franchise, a brand that has been around for so many years, going on 30 years now. Why do you think something like Power Rangers has been able to be this strong and last this long?
I think Power Rangers appeals to our own self-worth. I think there is something really special about Rangers in that it's not like you are suddenly a god or you're a billionaire or you're infused with a super serum. When you're a Ranger and you morph, that is the best part of you. You don't change. You are who you are. And when you morph, that is literally just an uber version of you, and all your characteristics and everything that makes you you and unique just becomes amplified. And you see that in every Ranger series ever, even the movie. And there's something really special about that. There's something really special about people, about a franchise that just embraces the you-ness of it. You're not trying to be Superman. You just want to be a Ranger. And all a Ranger is the superhero version of you. And I think that really appeals, not just to me, but to a lot of people, because at the end of the day, what we want is to love ourselves. And that's what being a Ranger allows us to do.
Yeah, I think on a similar note, I think there was an element of access and wish fulfillment in the sense that it was just a group of friends who were plucked out and given this power and responsibility, and it highlights everything that was inside of you and amplifies that. And I think that was the fun part of when we were kids and we watched it. It was like, well, this could happen to you and your friends tomorrow, and there was also that cool thing of like, well, if that did happen to us, who would be what color, and like that. There was a thing. There was an interactiveness. There's an interactiveness inherently in Power Rangers that I think applies to that crosses borders and races and genders and all of that stuff. And I feel like there's something about that's not the way. Like, my parents are not billionaires and didn't die, and then I went on a revenge mission for the rest of my life. But that's not going to happen to me. But even today, me and five of my friends could easily get power coins and go inside. Easily, I go too far. But this idea that like, there's something about the camaraderie and the idea of stepping you. I think that's what's really fun is everybody always sort of goes, who's your favorite Ranger? And that's such an interesting sort of like litmus test on yourself, because it's almost like, how do you perceive yourself? How do you see yourself, and how do you reflect against that person you saw on TV? And there was a character that we all could associate with, or there was somebody that we could always look at. I feel like that's the really amazing part about Power Rangers is it's never lost that. It's never lost that ability to sort of allow you to see a reflection of yourself in the Rangers, and ultimately imagine what it would be like if that were you. And that, I think,
Yeah.
that creates an incredible amount of empathy and interest, and something that, you know, has made that has helped the franchise grow with generations.
Yeah, you never morph alone.
Hey, that's a good line. Should write that down.
No,
Well, I
that's
can
so
write it
true.
down and steal it later. You know?
It's all yours, man.
Never told. Good line.
Oh, and that was so beautiful. Yeah, because that's how Power Rangers resonates to me as well. Just like that bond that you have with it, where you're enjoying it from the fantasy aspect, but you also see a little bit of yourself in it as well. So that's really cool that you guys do this so well with this franchise, and so we definitely appreciate it. On behalf of Ranger Nation, we thank you so much for all the work and everything you contributed to Power Rangers in comics, and as well as the brand as a whole. I think that the comics have been just a great way, like I said, to sort of add some depth to the Power Rangers brand while still keeping the heart of what Power Rangers is all about. So I know that's a task, a large task to undertake. So I appreciate both of you for all the great work you've done with that.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate you, Andre, for all the amazing ambassadory that you've done for Power Rangers. You know, we're talking to a legit Blue Ranger right now. So
Yeah, I was like, only one of us is a Ranger here, man.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, this was great. Like I said, this was great to talk to and get some behind the scenes about the comics. Definitely looking forward to issue 100, and definitely looking forward to 101 and beyond with you, Melissa. So it's going to be great. So yeah. And there's another thing that's great about Power Rangers, of course, and that is the toys. So we're going to turn it over to the toy team right now to see about some new Power Ranger toy goodness.